Now, before I jump in and actually talk about this statement by Maleyha Brooks-Murray, I want to address this censorship that is occurring on this Facebook page. This is the Find Lily and Jack Sullivan Facebook page, and the person who is the admin for that is the person who has organised this group, the Please Bring Me Home group, to come and help with this case. I've already shared my thoughts on this group. I did my research. They are not a proven group. They have not found anyone. They have assisted organisations that have found missing people, but to date, according to their webpage, they've not actually found any missing people themselves. So this is not like bringing in Texas EquiSearch. This is not necessarily something that's going to make any difference in this case. So I just want to highlight that, because I know that this Facebook group is talking it up, but if you do your research, you'll see, well, actually, there's nothing flashy about this group that I can see. They are more than welcome to contact me if they want to discuss it, and if there's information they have that's not on their webpage. But this is my observation from researching, not just looking at their webpage, but looking at media as well. Now, let's get back to this censorship thing. So this is the page that posted the letter from Maleyha Brooks-Murray. And the person who organises this page clearly feels that she's a little bit protective of Maleyha Brooks-Murray. I don't think she realises that she's being manipulated. Maleyha's not your friend. Maleyha will never be your friend. And she's not going to start sharing her deepest secrets with you. But what this person has put after sharing these letters from Maleyha is any negative comments will be instantly removed from this post and may result in the comments to this post being turned off. Please show Maleyha kindness in her strength to come forward and release this statement for her children and refrain from any negative comments. I want this page to be positive and light, as this page is for Lily and Jack, and speculation and theories are not welcome. Okay, if this page was for Lily and Jack, then you would be recognising that what Maleyha's doing here is not for Lily and Jack. What Maleyha's doing here is for Maleyha. And what you are doing by censoring people and telling them that negative comments will be removed is that you are preventing people for actually speaking out for Lily and Jack with regards to this statement made by Maleyha. You have basically turned this Facebook page into a Maleyha Brooks-Murray fan page and completely made a mockery of this case, in my opinion. Now, yes, I will admit I can be extremely defensive here when it comes to Belinda and Chelsea, and I am intolerant of people who come at them in my comments section. But here's the difference. Neither of them had anything to do with the disappearance of Lily and Jack. Neither of them were present when Lily and Jack went missing. Neither of them have been in hiding for over 5 months, refusing to speak out for these children. In fact, Belinda and Chelsea have put so much of their time and their heart into advocating for Lily and Jack. So that's why I don't tolerate people making comments against them on my channel. But Maleyha doesn't deserve that. Yes, I know that at times I have pointed out that in some respects Maleyha may be a bit of a victim here, given that it appears that Daniel was possibly not the most nice partner, given that he possibly did not treat Maleyha quite as nicely as he would like people to think, given that he apparently didn't treat Lily and Jack as nicely as they deserved. I'm not going to make this about him in this video, but you know what I'm talking about. But for those people who suddenly want to hero worship Maleyha and put her up on a pedestal for coming out and speaking on behalf of her children, let's have a look at a few facts. First of all, Maleyha and Daniel corroborated each other's stories at the very beginning. We know those children did not wander off into the woods. We've been told over and over again by the RCMP that there is absolutely no evidence of an abduction. We know that whatever happened to those children happened on that property. That means that every single person who was on that property at the time that these children allegedly disappeared knows what happened to these children. That includes Maleyha Brooks Murray. Let's keep talking about this. Maleyha kept her 3 children in an environment that was not a safe, happy environment for children. She isolated them from their family. She took out sole custody and prevented Cody from being able to see them. I'm not going to discuss the issues of him not fighting back in this video. That's not what this is about. This is about Maleyha's actions. She made sure that Cody did not have access to his children. She made sure that Belinda Gray did not have access to her grandchildren. She made sure that Henry Brooks did not have access to his grandchildren. She made sure that the aunts, Chelsea, Hayley, did not have access to their nieces and nephew for 2 whole years. When she allowed Daniel to isolate her, she allowed Daniel to isolate her children as well. It doesn't matter if it was a DV situation. She still made that choice to keep her children in that situation. From what we hear, those children were living in a home that was unclean and untidy and had locks on the doors. We have an account from Daniel's children that apparently Maleyha locked them in their room. Let's keep going. These children were sent to school unwashed, in unclean clothes, with inadequate clothing for the weather, and inadequate food. That is on Maleyha. These children had frequent injuries, including frequent black eyes. Now, I'm not saying that Maleyha was responsible for causing those injuries, but she never turned around and said, okay, I think I should actually take my children from this situation. She was too spineless to make that sacrifice and walk away from her relationship for the sake of her children. These children were kept in a house where they were not given ready access to food. You've seen the photo that I have been putting out on a daily basis since covering the part of the interview where Daniel was saying that the children could go and help themselves to food and that there were no restrictions on food. You know the photo I mean, the one with the child lock on the fridge. You heard Daniel say that if they wanted food from the cupboards, they had to pull a chair across and climb up. That's not normal. That is considered abuse. These children were not given easy access to food. You can tell from how skinny Lily was. You can tell from looking at how incredibly ill Meadow looked in those photos from just before all this went down. If you go and have a look at the photos now, and I'm not going to share photos of Meadow because there shouldn't be photos being shared of Meadow. She's not missing. She needs a chance to live a normal life. But if you go over and you have a look at the current photos of Meadow, as opposed to the photo of Meadow when all this went down, you will see how much more healthy she looks right now. These children were not living in a healthy environment. According to Daniel, the children were missing school on a weekly basis. He didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with that. Clearly, Maleyha didn't think there was anything wrong with that either. But we are talking about an absenteeism of over 20%. That is significant, and that is huge in terms of impacting on their learning and their social development. We've heard that despite all the issues that Lily and Jack were having, Maleyha never set foot in that school. She never once communicated face to face with any of their teachers. That is significant. And let's talk about CPS. Not long after these children went missing, CPS took Meadow. Now, when children go missing, it's not standard practice for CPS to just go in and take the other children. CPS do not take children out of their homes unless there is a significant reason to do so. We know there's good reason for Daniel to be not allowed unsupervised visits with his children, but it seems that Maleyha also is not allowed unsupervised access to her daughter. She's not the perfect mother. Were the issue just Daniel Martel, then Meadow would still be in her mother's custody. But clearly there were enough issues there for CPS to turn around and say, this woman is not a suitable mother. This child is at risk if she stays in the home with this woman. This CPS file on Lily and Jack is significant enough that we've heard that it was actually reviewed by the minister. It went right to the top because there was something significant in this file that clearly should have been addressed and may have prevented these children from going missing. That's not just on Daniel Martel. That's on Maleyha Brooks Murray too. Let's talk about Maleyha's search efforts for her children. Oh, right, there weren't any, were there? No, not only did she not search for her children, but on day 2, she left. She wasn't worried about waiting at home in case her children were found and brought home. Did Maleyha advocate for her children? No. It's been complete silence for over 5 months. The only time when Maleyha suddenly popped her head out was when there was a GoFundMe. And Maleyha wanted that money. We've seen one interview with Maleyha. That interview was a couple of minutes long. That is all she has done in terms of facing the media and speaking out for her children. We've not seen her coming out non-stop, pleading for the public to help find her children. We've not seen her posting on social media on a daily basis like Belinda Gray and Chelsea Gray, reminding people how many days it's been since the children have gone missing. We've not seen her reposting flyers on her Facebook page. We've not seen her at all. So she writes this letter and we're supposed to suddenly be grateful. We're supposed to suddenly worship her. This is the coward's approach. This is not the approach of someone who actually wants people to help her find her children. This is the approach of someone who wants to hide, not show her face, not put her voice to the hundreds of other voices who are actually speaking out for her children. These are just hollow words on a piece of paper. This brings to mind Felicia Gross. You might remember that name. This is going back a few months ago when Jaden Spicer went missing. And funnily enough, his mother and stepfather claimed that he had just left the house overnight and just vanished. And his mother, Felicia Gross, was too gutless to speak to the media. Instead, she wrote a letter that was then given to the media and shared. We later found out that she was responsible for the death of that child. She is now incarcerated awaiting trial. When Maleyha did her runner, not only did she block people on social media, but she ghosted Belinda Gray. She's refused to communicate with Belinda Gray. She's refused to answer any of Belinda's questions over this past 5 months. In fact, when Belinda was speaking out for these children, going on It's a Crime and Shame, Maleyha went to the RCMP and made a complaint about Belinda because Belinda was talking about her. Belinda had a phone call from the RCMP that was essentially a cease and desist. And yet what was Belinda saying about Maleyha that was so horrible? She was saying that she thought Maleyha had been the best mother that she could want for her grandchildren. She said what all of us thought. The fact that Maleyha could leave the property meant that Maleyha knew that those children weren't coming back. And she pointed out that Maleyha had gone to ground, had blocked her and wasn't giving answers. Now, someone who had nothing to hide would maybe suddenly realise what they were doing and make contact with Belinda and go, look, I'm so sorry. I was so caught up in my own stress that I didn't consider how much you were hurting. But no, not Maleyha Brooks Murray. Maleyha contacted the RCMP and said, she's saying nasty things about me, make her stop. This letter, statement, whatever you want to call it, from Maleyha, this is not a mother speaking out for her children. This is a selfish narcissist using this for her own purposes. one of two things has happened here. Either this is something that she thought was her way of manipulating people and gaining sympathy for herself. Or, and I think this is probably more likely, this organisation has basically not contacted her directly but gone to perhaps Cindy Murray, another family member. And the reason I say Cindy Murray is because it sounds like Cindy is the one that controls Maleyha. And I think that Maleyha has been told, you have to do this. I strongly suspect that this was not done by choice. Maleyha has been too spineless to show her face in public. She's never made an attempt to answer people's questions. She's never come out just to speak for her children. And this is not the opening of the floodgates. She's not going to suddenly start speaking out for her children. She's not going to suddenly start talking on people's YouTube channels or leaving comments on Facebook pages. She's going to climb back onto that rock that she's been hiding under for the last 5 months. This is all we're getting from her. The other thing that we need to keep in mind as we start looking at this letter is that it is clear from the language in this letter that she has not cooperated with RCMP, as in she's not made any sort of deal where she's told them what happened to the children. She is continuing to lie. She has stayed silent for 5 months, and now she comes out with this letter or statement, whatever you want to call it, that is full of lies. Maleyha has done this for her own self, not for these children. Now I realise that you're here to hear my thoughts, my analysis of what Maleyha has said in this letter. And there's probably people who've become frustrated because I've spoken for so long before getting into the letter. But I'm here for Jack and Lily. And if that means that before I read this letter, I need to remind people of the reasons why we shouldn't be suddenly hero worshipping Maleyha Brooks Murray, of the reasons why we shouldn't be putting her up on a pedestal and censoring people and saying, don't say anything nasty about Maleyha or I'll delete it. Because here's what we need to remember. Even if Maleyha felt that she was trapped, even if Maleyha felt that she couldn't get out, even for the sake of her children, once those children were gone, then it was up to her to step up and do the right thing. She's living on the reservation. That would mean that she's supposedly now safe from Daniel, safe from his family. But she hasn't stepped up and done the right thing for her children. She's gone quiet for 5 months and come out with this letter that just makes a mockery of her own children, makes a mockery of what happened to them. Now, the first thing I want to talk about with regards to this letter is a lot of people are saying, well, how do we know it's even legitimate because she left the A off her name at the end of the letter? Well, even though this organisation isn't exactly like the cream of the crop, they're not going to put out false letters, for starters. But from looking at this letter, what I am seeing is a final copy of a written statement. So what I'm seeing is that Maleyha has sat down, she's written her statement, and then she's copied it out, but she doesn't have the language sophistication to edit as she rewrites. So all she has done is basically rewrite it verbatim in nice writing, leaving out the bits that she's crossed out. So this is a final draft with no language editing in between. Meaning that, for the most part, her focus has been on making it look good as opposed to focusing heavily on the language. So I think that at the end, where she's left the A of her name, I think that's more of a case of her brain just going, yeah, okay, I'm finished now. And she probably didn't even notice that the A wasn't there because she was copying verbatim. The words just became letters combined together in the end. I have to say, I would like to see the original draft because I think that would be quite revealing. Okay, so one last thing. I'm not a graphologist. I don't do very much in terms of handwriting analysis. I am going to do a video where I address what I see in the handwriting, but that is not coming from an expert opinion. And for that reason, it is going to take me longer to prepare it because it's not something that just comes quite so easily for me. And I do have to refresh my knowledge a bit as well. So this video is going to be about the language, not about the writing. Given the complete absence of paragraphing, I'm going to address this one sentence at a time. She uses some really long sentences too. So, as a mother, I love my children more than life itself and feel so heartbroken not being able to hold my two children, Lily and Jack, kiss them, breathe in their scent, or tuck them into bed, dress them, wake up to their sweet, smiling faces. I'm not going to comment on the grammar and stuff there. Clearly, this is someone who didn't pay a lot of attention in school or just didn't have the fortune of going to a good school. I can't help but mention the capital letter on mother. This is something that is important to her, clearly. But, you know, she's proven herself not capable as a mother. I love my children more than life itself. This is a platitude from a girl who still has the mentality of a teenager and is living in a fantasy world, in my opinion. It means nothing. I love my children more than life itself. It's a saying. And she's proven that that is not the case. If that was the case, she would have got them out of that home. When I look at the style of writing here, this is someone who I suspect probably as a teenager did a lot of diary writing, probably enjoyed English at school and enjoyed writing long narratives, enjoyed writing long poems and stuff like that. It's got that feel of it being a little bit creative as opposed to honest. She's saying what she thinks makes a good statement here. Now, she probably is heartbroken, but it certainly has a feel of she's being super, super persuasive here. She's spending, well, this half of the page is all about how desperately she misses them. She's really laying it on thick. And fair enough, she's lost her children. She's lost all three of her children now. But it just does have this feeling of a little bit of creative writing here. So she says, I feel so heartbroken not being able to hold my two children. Then she throws in the names Lily and Jack, kiss them, breathe in their scent, or tuck them into bed. I think there's a bit of leakage here. The things that she's pointing out here. First of all, breathe in their scent. But she's not written breathe, she's written breath. That's not coincidental. Tuck them into bed. Dress them. Wake up to their sweet smelling faces. These are the first things that she has identified after saying that she wants to be able to hold them and kiss them. She claimed that she put them to bed in the clothes that they were wearing that day, which to me adds a bit more weight to the notion that these children, whatever happened to them, did happen on a Thursday. And now she's saying that she wants to tuck them into bed, she wants to dress them, and she wants to wake up to their sweet faces. Things that, if it happened on a Thursday, things that she did not get to do. Referring to their sweet smiling faces, that's just a literary device. We know that Jack was an extremely sombre child. Yes, Lily had a sort of radiance about her, but Jack? Very few of the photos that we have seen of Jack show him smiling. She then goes on to say, the longing I have for them to come home back to me is a greater feeling that I could never imagine feeling or put into words how I am feeling. So I think she's actually been given a list of questions. And obviously this question is about how are you feeling about their absence. Now, what is really interesting here, and is also a bit of leakage, or major bit of leakage, is she's basically saying, this longing for them to come home. It's something that she could never imagine feeling. She's telling us she can't even visualise them ever coming home. She knows 100% that these children are not coming home. And here's the thing. When a child goes missing, if a parent has had absolutely no involvement with that, is completely innocent and has no idea where their child is, 5 months down the track, they're not going to be completely thinking their child is never coming back. They're going to be holding on to hope that maybe their child will come back. If she thought those children had wandered off into the woods, I can't see why she would have left that property for any reason. She did not believe those children wandered off into the woods. Well, clearly, given that she's not holding out any hope of ever seeing them again, she also does not believe that the children were abducted. And yes, the awkward language that she used to actually say that is significant too, because it's basically showing us this is not genuine her trying to write something that she truly believes in terms of them coming back in. She's trying to say that she's longing so much to see them come in the door that she wants it more than anything. But instead, she's turned it around because her language was so awkward and basically said that she could never imagine them coming in through the door, meaning she knows they're not coming back. So the awkwardness of the language here gives her away as well. And then we have, there is not one single day, minute or second that goes by that I am not thinking about my children. Like I said, this girl clearly is someone who enjoyed English literacy at school and is still writing her little narratives. What she's going for throughout this letter is persuasive devices. She's not telling us how she actually feels. She's pulling out every persuasive device that she can use to try and convince people that, you know, this is just so hard on her. But it doesn't come across as being heartfelt. It doesn't come across as being genuine because it is so waffly. It is basically more about creating a nice, pretty piece of writing as opposed to saying what she really feels. She's expressing really shallow level emotions, if you can call those emotions. She's not describing any physical experiences. You know, that feeling in the pit of your stomach where you feel like you almost can't breathe because it's so overwhelming. We're not seeing anything like that. She's just pulling out the words that she thinks are good words to use. She's pulling out persuasive devices. She's pulling out the words that she thinks are good words to use to show that she cares for her children. The goal here is to elicit sympathy for herself. The goal is not to try and encourage people to help her find her children. So she says here, I walk into a store and all I see is things they love that I want to get for them when they come home. The candy they like, the clothes they wear, the toys they love. All I see is them. This, to me, sounds like someone who's moved on in their grief to the reflective part where they look back on the things that they miss, the things they can't do anymore. And you'll note she talks about these things, walking into the store and seeing things that she wants to get when they come home. Not things, she's not gone out and gone, well, I've gone and bought these things for them for when they come home. And the language doesn't agree here. Yes, she can talk about the candy they like, but then talking about the clothes they wear, the toys they love, that's referring to things that they already own. I would expect her to be referring to the type of clothes they like to wear, or the clothes they would wear, or the toys, the type of toys they would love. Not that they love, but they would love. They would love them if I bought them for them. They don't love them right now because they don't own them. I haven't purchased them yet. So this is just a piece of fiction. I so desperately just want them home safe and sound, back into my arms where I will never let them go. Again, that's more about ideology, more about talking the talk. Because we know, like, you know, you're not going to hold your children in your arms and never let them go. So it is just a turn of phrase. I would be more convinced if she were to say, where I will make sure that they are safe and nothing bad ever happens to them again, or something like that. But the where I'll never let them go, she's essentially just pulling out all the cliched language. But there's nothing here that sounds to me like it is truly from the heart. Now, she probably does miss her children. She probably does feel incredible regret. But she's not actually expressing any real feelings here. And like I said, this to me reads like a dreamy teenager who's in her own little fantasy world. And here's where we see the first sign that that this is a final draft as opposed to her just writing it out. Because she said, I'm truly traumatised not being able to hear to hear the sweet sound of their voices. Okay, so again, this is not genuine language. Saying you are traumatised not to hear the sound of their voices doesn't fit. When you are traumatised by something, it is because you are re-experiencing it. In your mind, you are re-experiencing it. So, to say you were traumatised to not be able to hear the sound of their voices doesn't fit. That's not trauma. You might be heartbroken. You might be saddened. You might just be really, really missing the sound of their voices. But you are not traumatised by it. Traumatised would be experiencing some sort of physical sensation, a smell or something that takes you back to that moment when something bad happened. Is this a form of leakage? Because we hear Janie talking about how she could hear the children, she could hear their voices, and then very suddenly everything went quiet. So, is this actually a bit of leakage? And without realising what she's doing, Maleyha has actually given us a bit of truth here. The sudden silence is a source of trauma for her. Is she referring to that recollection of one moment hearing their voices and the next minute there being sudden silence? Is that why she's used the word traumatised? I don't think it's an accidental choice of word. When things like this, when words come out that don't seem to quite fit, there is a definite reason for that choice of word. Now, like I said, this is clearly a final draft. She's written to hear twice. So she's been copying it out and she's written to hear. She's probably stopped and then she's looked and she's written to hear again. She hasn't even noticed that she's repeated herself. You probably noticed also the way she's looking at all this with rose-coloured glasses. She talks about the sweet sound of their voices. We've heard Lily's voice when she's overstimulated. That's not a sweet sound. We've heard that Jack could be quite loud sometimes when he was talking, that he could be quite stubborn. We've heard this from Janie, but it's been confirmed by Wade. Now, she's got a full stop after voices, but then she puts their laugh, full stop. It's an incomplete sentence. That's not coincidental either. I suspect that based on what we've heard, there probably wasn't a lot of laughter from those children. And I think that's probably why that's not part of the previous sentence about not being able to hear their voices. This is not a letter from a mother who's wanting help finding her children. This is not a statement from a mother whose children are missing and who desperately wants them found. This is creative prose. She's writing what she thinks the reader wants to hear. Now, then she goes on with, when they would sing a Gabby's Dollhouse song that now only make me cry when I hear it, because all I hear is Lily and Jack singing along. This part here is a description of grief, reflecting on something that you can't experience anymore, reflecting on that loss. She's talking about this song that they would sing along to, that now only makes her cry, meaning she's recognising here that they're not going to sing along to this song again. This is something that is in the past. This is something that she is expressing a feeling of loss over. And then again, we have this statement about a breathing, which is spelled as breath. So again, she says not being able to breathe in their scent when I embrace them tightly. It's no coincidence that she's come back to talking about breathing in their scent, and both times she's written it as breath. To me, that says that she saw these children after they were deceased. And I suspect maybe she even held them after they were deceased, when there was no breath. I may be wrong, but that is my interpretation here. And then we have this sentence which to me is extremely significant. I don't want these moments to be memories. She's basically already saying these moments she's not getting them back. And that she feels this sadness because now they are just memories. There's no sense here of hope. No sense of, I want to experience these moments again. I hope I can experience these moments again. No, none of that. She doesn't want them to become memories. There's no sense of hope here. It's that this is what is happening. She doesn't want it to happen. There is a finality to what she's saying. Now we have, I want my babies back home, my Lily May and Jackie. Again, she's kind of missing the mark here. She's not saying that she dearly hopes that they can be brought back home. There's no sense of hope. It's just she wants it. She wants them back home. She's not holding out hope that one day they'll be back. She's not desperately praying that they will be brought back home to her. She just wants them home. The pure pain I suffer of just not knowing where they are has impacted my life and Meadows and my family in the most devastating way. Okay, devastation again is a sense of permanent loss. She's being overly persuasive here by talking about pure pain, because that's unnecessary. She's adding in extra words here to try and be extra persuasive. And for some reason here she's written just with a capital letter. So apparently this is the only thing that is causing her pain, not knowing where they are. Or is it? Because she says the pain has impacted her life. The pain of not knowing where they are has impacted her life and Meadows and her family. So when you actually look at what she's saying here, it really isn't making complete sense, because she's not saying that their absence is the thing that's impacted her life and Meadows' life, but the pain that she's suffering has impacted her life, Meadows' life, and her family's life. So again, it's just kind of misses the mark. Again, choice of words isn't coincidental. So when she's talking about how it's impacted her life, Meadows' life, and her family's life in the most devastating way, she's referring to Meadow being taken away from her. That is the devastation she is feeling here. Not the pain of not knowing where they are. The impact here is that she has had Meadow taken away from her also. This whole sentence, it's not logical. So much of what is written in this document is not reflective of natural speech patterns that tells me that this is written for an audience as opposed to being written to convey a need for her children to be found, to convey gratitude for support. Life feels extremely hard to keep going. With no answers, it is pure lostness, like I can no longer feel at home anymore. Now, I don't know if this woman's on some medications or something at the moment, but that is just such an odd statement. And what she's talking about here is a sense of not belonging anywhere. She's not talking about a sense of missing what she used to have. She's talking about not belonging anywhere. It's pure, it's just lostness. What is it? Just pure lostness. Okay. And that she can no longer feel at home anymore. That to me sounds like someone who is basically feeling guilt. I think this ties in with her ghosting Belinda. What we're seeing here is someone who feels so much guilt that they feel a disconnect from the people around them, because in their eyes, they think these people see their guilt and blame them also. So this sentence is not about feeling the loss of her children. This is about feeling like she doesn't belong, feeling like she's an outsider, feeling that she doesn't have that connection with her community. Yes, you can say you feel that you're totally lost, that the bottom has fallen out from your world. But she's explained this pure lostness as that she just doesn't feel at home anymore. If she was still at Gerlock Road and she was saying it doesn't feel like a home anymore, I could understand that, because her children wouldn't be there and she'd be around people who dislike her. But she's moved to a different location. She's around different people and she doesn't feel at home. She doesn't feel welcome. She's feeling guilt. She's projecting her sense of guilt onto other people in terms of she's got this sense of guilt, so she thinks they must look at her and see her as guilty as well. That's just my perception. I'd be really interested to hear what you think. No matter how lost I feel, I have not ever given up hope that my children will be returned. That is just a whole load of BS. Why is that? Because grammatically, nothing agrees here. You could say, I will not ever give up hope. Or you say, I have not yet given up hope. But I have not ever given up hope. It doesn't fit. Again, this is her basically making it up as she goes along. This is not her talking about her feelings. This is her writing for an audience. And to me, when I look at this sentence, what stands out to me is her saying, not ever that her children will be returned. So in actual fact, if you look at the wording of this, if you try and find the parts that make sense, she's actually saying that she doesn't actually feel that her children will ever be returned. She knows that actually, because she knows what happened to those children. So in the context of what she is trying to say, not ever does not fit. But when you actually look at what is really being conveyed here, it's not leakage. that she's put in here, not ever. Not ever be returned. This is pure leakage. She's telling us she knows her children aren't coming back. And then you get this repetition, be returned home to me, safe and sound. Yeah, right, Maleyha. We know that you don't believe that. I have all the faith and hope I will see them again. Again, it's not natural language. This is something that's written for an audience. I have all the faith and hope I will see them again. This is something that she's gone, how can I convince people that I believe that I will see them again? Even though everything else that she's said here shows that she has no hope whatsoever that these children are coming back. We have never so much in here. And when you look at it, when you try and actually make sense of it, everything she's said so far is her basically saying that she knows her children aren't coming back. So saying I have all the faith and hope I will see them again doesn't really ring true for me. In fact, what it does bring to mind for me is Don Wells with Summer Wells when she was missing, and him saying he has hope that he has faith that he will see her in the resurrection.
I love her with all my heart, but only God, if nothing else, I'll see her in the resurrection. As long as I keep the commandments and I do what I'm supposed to do, I'll see her in the commandments.
Okay, just wow. I've just got to make a comment here. It's been several years since I watched that clip of Summer dancing in the rain and listening to Don Wells saying that. And yet it just brought it all back. Another little girl who's out there somewhere needing to be found, whose parents need to be held accountable. But I guess there's one message in this for Maleyha and Daniel and all the people around them who are protecting them. We haven't forgotten about Summer Wells. There are still channels who are speaking about Summer Wells. Your life will never, ever move on while those children are still missing. And here comes the classic boilerplate statement. Please, anyone with any information, no matter how small, please come forward. So from Jaden Spicer's mother, who it turns out was responsible for his no longer being around, we get this. We want him safe at home. That sounds the same. Please, if anybody see my son Jaden, please report it to the Jackson Police Department.
In a letter, the family thanked police and the community for their continued efforts in the search for Maleyha. They say they are devastated and heartbroken, but continue to have hope that she will be found very soon. The family went on to describe Maleyha as a beautiful and smart girl. They asked that if you have any information on her whereabouts, to please contact the Cornelius Police Department.
That was a letter from Madalena Kojikari's family from November 2022. We're coming up towards 3 years of her being missing. And her family did that letter, which is somewhat similar to Maleyha's letter. The thing is, the police have found so much evidence that shows that her mother and stepfather were involved in Madalena's disappearance. Madalena's mother was named as a suspect or a person of interest, one or the other, so she fled the country. Seems like there's this handbook that these people use where they use this, basically say the same thing. Now we have Maleyha saying, please do not be afraid to use your voice to help bring home Lily and Jack. Even the smallest details are crucial. Well, you know what, Maleyha? There's multiple YouTube channels, just like mine. We're using our voices. to keep Jack and Lily's names out there. Most of us have been doing so for the past 5 months. And most of us have spent more time talking about your children in one day than you have in the past 5 months. I actually think her comment there, where she's saying, please do not be afraid to use your voice to help bring home Lily and Jack, is a bit of projection. She's admitting here that she's too afraid to speak up for her children. And now we get the thank you clause because, that's part of it as well. They all do this. I'm so incredibly grateful and thankful for all of the ongoing efforts of the RCMP, Major Crimes, Search and Rescue, and please bring me home. I bet you are, Maleyha. Now this next paragraph, once again, is not natural speech. It sounds like someone who is writing an advertisement. The RCMP Major Crime Unit and Please Bring Me Home will continue to investigate, and they need your help. You can share tips anonymously at pleasebringmehome.com or contact the RCMP directly. Well, at least Maleyha's not asking people to contact her with tips like Daniel was. And now we get the most infuriating line in this entire statement. I will never stop searching for my children until they are found and brought home safe and sound. Notice the capital letters on my children. She's pointing out that this is her children that we're all talking about, which is somewhat ironic given that she's saying she will never stop searching. But the thing is, to never stop searching, you've got to start searching in the first place. So I guess she will never stop searching because she never started. And once again, we have an absolute in this sentence. She will never stop searching. So even though we know she's not searching, she's also telling us here that she doesn't believe they're going to be found or that they're going to be brought home safe and sound. The never is basically, it's never going to happen. Otherwise, I would expect to hear, I will continue to search for my children until they are finally brought home. She has used never multiple times in this letter. She is showing the finality of this. She knows they're not coming home safe and sound. And then we get another cliche, someone somewhere knows something. Well, there's 3 people at least that know something, Maleyha, and you are one of them. Note how she's basically used capital letters on someone and somewhere, and the possibly with the K in the knows, because it is just a saying to her. It's a turn of phrase. It's meaningless to her. It's just something that she knows you have to say, so she's saying it. Hence, we get these capital letters showing that it's basically, this is a thing that we say. Now, you note at this point in time that she's almost completely thrown punctuation out the window. So this next line, I'm not sure if it's meant to be a separate sentence or if there was meant to be a comma after the something, but she said, so please help bring my babies home. Again, this is just something she's saying here because this is how it is formatted. She understands how to format this kind of document. She knows that she's meant to make a plea for people to bring her babies home. She knows she's meant to thank people for their help. So she's just basically going through the motions here. To the incredible volunteers, searchers, investigators, and compassionate strangers who have stood beside us, thank you. Who stood beside you, Maleyha? You've been hiding out for 5 months. You haven't given anyone a chance to stand beside you. Thank you, your tireless dedication, your prayers, your time spent combing through woods and yards, sharing photos and refusing to give up. You and the hope my children will be home and my youngest daughter are the reason I hold strength and keep going. Well, that's a lot to put in one sentence, and it's all over the place. So again, this is not what I would expect in terms of natural language. She's just completely thrown out all sentence structure here. So there's like probably 3 separate sentences that this should be. And she's changing topic throughout. At this point, she's just ticking boxes now. She's like, I've got to remember to thank these people. And let's go over the top again. Let's add a whole heap of extra BS. Because we know that people aren't showing her compassion, because people are angry that she's been silent for 5 months. We know that people have not stood beside her because she's been in hiding for 5 months. Sure, some of us have acknowledged that her living arrangements weren't ideal and that she was in a not so good living situation, but nobody's given her a free pass. And yet the way she's speaking here, either she's just in some complete utter fantasy world and is just saying what she believes is the case, or she's just spouting a whole heap of BS. You and the hope my children will be home and my youngest daughter are the reason I hold strength and keep going. Honestly, the rest of this is just completely baffling for me. You've shown me that love, kindness and compassion still shine even in the darkest times. Well, I'm not sure which planet you're on, Maleyha, because I've not seen that publicly. I've not seen people showing love for you, kindness for you. Yes, maybe a little bit of compassion in that people understand the situation that you were in. We recognise what you were going through. But in terms of love, kindness and compassion, that is something that is a struggle for many of us, given that you have escaped that situation and you have chosen to remain silent rather than speak out for the sake of your children. Everything you've done has not gone unnoticed. Thank you with deepest gratitude, Maleyha Brooks Murray. I think there's a bit of projection here. I think definitely she's in some sort of delusional world. I'm not sure if she's fully in touch with reality here. I think this everything you've done has not gone unnoticed is maybe directed at the fact that people have picked up on what Daniel is like. I think she's a little bit delusional here, because basically I suspect that what is happening here is that she is translating people's acknowledgement of Daniel's personality, people's acknowledgement of the sort of things that he put her through, as some sort of acceptance of her part in this. she needs to realise she is still accountable. Whatever happened to those children, even if at the time she felt powerless and couldn't do anything, she had the opportunity afterwards to speak up. She was completely removed from the situation. She's living in a location which I would imagine would be fairly safe for her. But this is all she has to offer. 2 pieces of paper with a statement which just does not ring as being sincere. It is not grammatically logical in many spots. It is just someone going through the works. And like I said at the beginning, I think the reason that it's written like Maleyha without the A is because this has been just a direct copy. She's copied it verbatim, meaning that she hasn't really been thinking that deeply about what she's been writing here. Now, I have to say, until this document came out, until this statement, whatever you want to call it, came out, this bit of fiction, I was feeling, in some ways, sympathetic towards Maleyha. I understood that her life was not easy at that property, nor was the life of her children easy. I understood that getting out of that sort of relationship can be nearly impossible. And many women will tell you that they tried to leave 20 times before they finally did. But what I don't understand is that these 2 beautiful little people are gone. And when she finally got herself out of that situation, when she finally got herself somewhere safe, she has chosen, rather than speak up for these children, what did she do? She chose to hide, and she chose to stay silent. I have actually found it more challenging looking at this bit of fiction from Maleyha than tackling the various interviews from Daniel. Because this really feels like pure betrayal. Narcissistic betrayal. She spouts all this stuff through here that makes it sound like she cares deeply for these children, that she misses them so much. But clearly she doesn't miss them enough to speak up for them so that they can be found. If Maleyha's goal here was for her children to be found, she wouldn't be putting this letter out that's basically just a whole heap of BS. Instead, she would be getting her ass down to the RCMP and telling them everything that she knows, telling them everything she saw. She took these children away from the people who loved them. She took them to a property where they were not wanted, where they were outsiders, where they were considered as intruders. She took them to a place where they weren't safe, where they weren't happy, where she was all they had. And yet she betrayed them. She has continued to betray them. I'm sorry for what you went through, Maleyha. But more than that, I'm sorry that you did not have enough of a spine to get your children out before it was too late. I'm sorry that you didn't have enough of a spine to speak up for your children after it was too late.